my friends. Welcome to Sort of Brilliant, a show where the characters are made up and Hogwarts house sorting absolutely does matter. My name is Rachel.
And I'm her best friend and co-host, Lauren. Every other week, we're going to invade a fandom and determine whether your favorite character belongs in Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin. There's bound to be some arguments along the way.
But in the end, we're always right.
Well, according to us.
According to us. Good day, dear listeners. This host is certainly looking forward to bringing you a most fruitful and satisfying episode henceforth. Surely you would not miss such a momentous event. Nay, nay. Welcome back to Sort of Brilliant. It is I, Lady Whistledown. No, hi, what's up? It's me. It's Rachel. I got you, though. Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
You doing okay?
I clapped for you.
Thank you. Was it convincing?
So here's the thing. Were you competing with Julie Andrews or were you just paying homage?
I could never.
Okay.
I could never come close.
That's what I thought.
Oh, please. She's incredible. But I mean, I kind of lost the accent sometimes. Halfway through that introduction, I was like, is this going to anger any British listeners?
I was going to say, was that a British accent?
No, because if I was going to do a British accent, I would have been like, good day, dear listeners. This host is certainly looking forward to this episode. It will be a jolly good time. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
That's not the British accent that's popular
it's
right
not.
now.
It's not.
It's not.
There's so many, and I think they're all wonderful.
There are. It's like America, isn't it? Different regions have different dialects and
they sound better than us, though.
I don't know. Have you ever heard somebody speak Cockney?
Yeah. I like it, though.
I do like it. I don't know if I would say it's better, but it's extremely interesting.
It is. I mean, well, what do we have quite a few. I guess we have quite a few.
Yeah, we have some. Were you just going to say what American accents do we have? We have New England, we have Appalachian, we have like Southern, and then there's like Southern Western and Southern.
You're right.
Yeah, I know. Midwestern.
And then there's New York.
Chicago.
Chicago.
The Bears. I'm like yelling over your New York accent.
Bada bing. Forget about it.
Forget about it. Have you ever, this is totally off topic, you've probably never seen this movie. It's called Mickey Blue Eyes. And
yes, I've seen Mickey Blue Eyes.
Have you seen Mickey Blue Eyes?
Seen every mob-esque movie that is in existence.
Nobody's ever seen Mickey Blue Eyes because it's one of Hugh Grant's like lesser known movies. Like everybody knows like music and lyrics and like all that. But I love Mickey Blue Eyes, and there's that whole scene where he's this British guy and they have to pretend he's part of the mob, and so they call him Little Mickey, and they're trying to teach him how to speak like an Italian New Yorker. And so they're going like, forget about it. And he sounds so awful. He's like,
forget about it.
Forget about it.
I love that. I love that movie. Anything related to the mob, you know, it's my culture or whatever. Just kidding. I'm Italiano, okay?
There's a thing going around TikTok right now of kids trying to like live their Wattpad dreams, and they've heard that like a certain amount of people are like sons of people in the mob, so they're like trying to figure out, they're like, are you really in the mob? Can you answer some questions for me? Does it work like Wattpad? And then they're like asking all these questions.
Oh my god. There was a point where like VH1 and MTV had all these mob shows like Growing Up Gotti and Mob Wives, and it was so good. They should have hopped right on that. Like, be born earlier and marry those dudes.
No, those are ancient shows to them. They don't know what that is.
They all had the Pauly D hair.
I mean, speaking of TikTok, so coming back to this, they have created a musical for Bridgerton, which is
really.
Have you not seen that?
I have not.
You're kidding me.
No, I didn't even know that was a thing.
You're kidding me. It's been I wasn't on TikTok for like the Ratatouille musical, I guess it was. But these two women have created an entire musical for Bridgerton, and like the actors have actually talked about it, and like Broadway people have been like paying attention to them. And there's this one song, like all of them are catchy, but the first one that they put out is about like the honeymoon scene when they're in the inn together, and they first get it on, and it's called like I Burn for You, I think.
Okay.
It's so catchy. It's like I burn born for you. It's
Wow.
it's pretty great. That was awful.
That's gonna
everybody
be the
on
clip.
TikTok does it way better. What?
That's going to be the clip that I take for the preview of this episode. Just that.
Good.
No
and
context.
then people will be like, Jesus Christ.
You're going to be like, I'm going to buy that album.
I don't need my
Put it
dogs screaming while I listen to this podcast. No, but Bridgerton, amazing show.
Really was.
I read the books. I was one of the kids in high school that would read the like smutty Harlequin romances. I put book covers on them so like none of my teachers could see like the half naked people on the cover, and that I was reading softcore porn basically. Like there were explicit sex scenes in those books.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but they're written by Julia Quinn, who is a Harlequin, like huge Harlequin romance person. And so I've read them before, and I saw that Netflix was doing this and watched it with my mom immediately because the Harlequin books I read in high school were my mom's. And it surprisingly was not as awkward as I thought it was going to be for how...
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's... It's like not as bad as Game of Thrones. It's like 2 steps below Game of Thrones.
I mean...
and I mean, like, some of it was explicit, but it was like tastefully explicit, I thought. But I remember texting you going, I'm watching a sex montage to an instrumental version of Taylor Swift. And you went, what?
Yeah. I was like,
you immediately watched it.
yeah, that was it. That was all I needed. It's, yeah. So I watched it by myself. Because my husband was just not into the premise of it at all.
Wow.
But he would be like on the computer behind me, and every time he would turn around to talk to me, it would be a extremely graphic sex scene. And he'd be like, so you're just watching porn in the living room? And I'm like, well, I mean, I can't say anything. He's just like rapidly thrusting into this woman before pulling out in the most ridiculous way.
Oh, yeah. And then he pulls out and comes all over the bed sheets or the stone masonry or whatever. Listen, he had her on the stairs. They were on that like piece of art ladder thing.
It's a very good thing that this wasn't modern times, because if anyone went around with a black light around that fucking castle.
Yeah, the Hugh Death Manor or whatever.
Not good, Simon. Not
they were all
good.
listening at the doors anyway. They knew.
For sure. Wouldn't you be? Look at the both of them. I would have been. It was just so funny because Lauren had finished it and then I started. And I was just texting her and I was like, so Simon just walked on the screen and my mouth just fell open. And it's never happened. That's never happened to me before. He walked in to the first scene that he's in. I'm pretty sure he was in this like red velvet coat. And my mouth,
with that
floor.
Yeah, he comes riding in on his horse.
Oh my God. I kept waiting for him to be less attractive. I was like, oh, maybe it's like the lighting in this scene that he walked in, because like no one is this beautiful, and it just never stopped. It just wouldn't stop. He's an incredible looking dude. It's insane. Right?
I mean, it's funny, right? Because like the way like there was not like these were arranged marriages, basically. All these people married to like intermix with each other and keep their bloodline noble and all that crap. Mm-hmm. And so there like actually wasn't a lot of like enjoyable recreational sex going on. Like people had sex to have children or because their husband owned the sex, like they were married and the husband wanted sex and so he got it from his wife, or like a lot of the time he would have a mistress and that was where he had like enjoyable sex, and then the other times were like sex that you had to have a son or like whatever. So like every time, like every single one of these moments where it's like it's a love match and they're wildly attracted to each other, it's actually like out of the norm, and all of these are going to be like that. But
well, not to bring us back to TikTok, but did you see the TikToks where people were like, the thing that pulls me out of any period piece is that there's always the one sister who's like, I don't want to be married, mama. Why can't a girl go to school? And they're like, this just didn't happen. And it's such a clear indication that this is made in modern times, or it's like fiction, because if you know history, according to these historians on TikTok, they're like, this wasn't a thing, because they're born and bred and raised to be brainwashed into this standard of, you know, this is what you do as a woman. Right. So I guess Daphne's sister really yanked people out.
Eloise. I mean, like you can like she's got four. She has 4 brothers.
Yeah.
So like she might be like, nah. I mean, I guess So I don't want to spoil her story. It's definitely not conventional, though. Yeah, I'm not going to, but it's definitely not like conventional. What?
Yeah,
she
but
goes
I mean, I think that's
through.
okay. I think it's like there also weren't the very clear and obviously fucking cool decision to have all these amazing Black people in power on this show.
Yeah, it was
like
cool.
That obviously wasn't happening in this is obviously England, right? In this time period, you didn't see that, unfortunately.
1813,
and it's what really convinced me to watch. I was like, this is beyond like Taylor Swift's sex scene, right? Like instrumental. I was like, that's amazing. I saw the actors and I jumped on it, and everyone else did too. Like, people need to do this more.
Yeah, I mean, and like in the Bridgertons case, they're like the privileged of the privileged, like especially the sisters, because quite obviously, like Anthony is going to support that. Like, this isn't the Bennets and Mr. Collins situation where they need to get married or they're out on the street starving. Right. Like, their brother was obviously going to like pay for them, and that family had a ridiculous, inordinate amount of money. Like, it just didn't matter. Yeah, if they didn't get married, like the worst it was going to be was like they were going to be an old maid and whatever. But I guess that's another thing that Eloise was like, I don't give a fuck. Like,
but that's interesting because what you just said really made me think about Daphne and her house. So I'd like to start with Daphne.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because you brought up that this wasn't really a necessary, like, it's necessary, of course. You have to do it. You're expected to do it if you're a woman of a certain age.
Well, and she's also the firstborn. So she said it a couple of times. Her success on the marriage market determined her sister's success, basically.
Right. Well, I felt that dedication to family duty, it jumped out to me as Slytherin because it was just everything was about her circle. And I know, like, thinking about making this argument, I was thinking, okay, probably many women of that time felt that way. They're not all necessarily Slytherins because they felt dedication to the family duty. But it's the way you framed it by saying she did it to set up her sisters. And she didn't need to go this hard. Like, her family would have been okay if she wanted to wait a little while longer, if whatever. But, she really was bound to this duty, extremely dedicated to it. And then it's the matter of sticking to her guns. It's the way that what's his name, Berbrook?
Yeah, Nigel Berbrook.
That whole thing with him, she just flat out, like, her goal was to be married, but she still wants to do it on her own terms. And she says, I'm flat out not marrying you. And he tries to assault her. And she stuck to her guns on it. She was like, it's not happening. She told Anthony, no, I'm not doing it. And she punches his ass, which was all very cool and very calm and collected. I thought very different than how I would have done it as a Gryffindor. I probably would have been in tears and screaming and slamming doors. And she was just like, I'd rather not. And also, I'm going to punch you in the face, asshole. Like, the way she did it.
Well, like, a little bit of it is because she's high in her instep too, isn't she? She gets presented to the queen, and the queen like kisses her cheek and calls her superb, and then she's like, I'm not marrying Nigel Berbrook after the queen kissed my cheek. Like, it's just not happening.
He's also gross. Like, I'm sorry. He just is very gross.
He is.
And I think Anthony's pushback and like feeling like he had to be the man of the house. He was like, yeah, you're doing it. You're marrying him. And she's just like, rather not. Not going to happen. No, thank you.
Well, Anthony was playing like the reason that she had like such a hard time finding anybody is because Anthony that first night was like, this guy's a gambler. This guy's a cheat. Yeah. Like, this guy's not good enough for you.
Yeah. Well, then, like, how dare he be annoyed that she didn't want to marry this guy? Like, he imposed all these standards on her, and then she has one, and you're like, no, I'm the man.
Yeah. He's the head of the household.
Gross. Hate that. So yeah, her punching him in the face, just like that whole scene, the way it happens, I was thinking about how I would have felt and what I would have done. And I know I would have been like a tear-filled, screaming mess, making a scene. Like, if that happened to me and she just punches him, and Simon's like, that was awesome. Which was my reaction too. So that was great. So just that whole dynamic jumped out to me as Slytherin to begin with. But then the way she devises the plan with Simon, also very strategic. Very like, yeah, this makes the most sense. This is what we should be doing. Like, why are we even playing around? We can trick everyone and get what we want at the end of it. And it didn't occur to Simon But he was like, hell yeah, that sounds really good. Get all these ladies off my back. But she was so strategic about it. And the whole thing, she's always talking about like, okay, the balls that we need to attend together and the kind of flowers and how many should she be receiving from him. It's very strategic. Yeah. So I was just thinking about all that. And I was like, what other house would she fit in? It's really Slytherin to me.
I mean, she doesn't waste her energy telling Anthony that Nigel is like a pervert either, or that he like disrespected her. She's like, I think she literally, like, Simon is the one who ends up telling Anthony that, like, Nigel's awful because Anthony keeps pushing him on her. And I think he literally was like, she would have told me. And Simon is like, would she? And he, like, confronts her. And she's like, yeah, like, you would have listened to me. I'm a woman. The only way that you were going to, like, the only way that you believe this is because another man told you. Like, she straight up tells him that. And I guess that's pretty Slytherin to, like, not even waste your energy on trying, like, somebody's not gonna so you're just like, whatever.
I completely agree with you. She was totally fine with not bringing it up, and it really, really confused me. And I think it confused Simon too, because he's the one who's like, hey, you know what that pervert did?
This kind of validates me a little, because it didn't confuse me at all. I was like, Anthony's a dick and he's not gonna listen, and like, why would you even bother trying to tell? Like, you have to figure things out yourself, because obviously he's gonna be no help. Like,
no, and she's like annoyed that Simon tells him, and I was like, Lauren, clarify why with your Slytherin brain, because I'd be shouting that shit from the rooftops and ruining this guy's ass.
Because literally, it's a waste of time. Like, Anthony's not going to listen. It's going to cause a fight. And Anthony's, like, going to dig his heels in more because he's obstinate, because he doesn't listen to women, because he's a man of the 1813s. So she's just like, whatever. It does not matter. And she didn't tell Simon to tell him either. Simon only told him after he was like, this guy is being gross right in front of me about your sister, and I don't like it. So I'm going to let you know that this is not okay, and this is why. And like, that was the culture at the time too. Like men always told, like, that's why Anthony knows all this stuff, because they instead of hanging out with their wives and mothers and sisters, they would go to these clubs every night to eat dinner and like drink and gamble with all the other men of their social standing. So they like knew things about each other. And like, it was pointless trying to tell them that you as a woman knew something that they didn't. Like,
I get all that, but I can't see how that could happen to you. And you have your dickhead brother still telling you, no, you need to marry him. And you're not screaming because he's a dick and he did this and it was gross and horrible and could have ruined me. Like, she doesn't. Nothing.
I was going to say, like, she was lucky in that sense, too, because also a lot of men, like, wouldn't have cared. They would have been, like, marry him anyway. Like, that was almost, like, Anthony is either an exception, like, he's an exceptionally good brother who actually cares about his sister. And also, I think it was a little bit that, like, he was disrespected in a way that a man would, like, take advantage of his sister like that. But
yeah, no, he's a good guy. He's definitely a good guy. And I mean, it's fair to say he wouldn't have listened to me anyway. Like, what she says to him, I'm a woman, and you wouldn't have cared. You were not listening this entire time anyway when I'm telling you I don't want this. So I get that. But I was coming at it from the Simon angle, where I would have just burst out and been like, do you know what he did to your sister? Do you know what he did? Like, freaking out because it's gross and horrible. And I just couldn't. The whole time I'm waiting for her to just drop the bomb and drop it.
Like, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, what she knew it wouldn't do her any good. Like, she didn't have, like, she was focused on fixing it the way that she could. It was like, it's like when her mom got the information about Nigel from the ladies' maids. And then it was like, how do we, like, distribute this in a way that men will listen? And it was to gossip, because I think Violet literally was like, we'll do what women do. We'll talk until it made it into Lady Whistledown, and then people listen to it. So,
yeah, it's just, it was very Slytherin for me for her to be completely fine with not bringing it up. Like, she knew it. It solidified her decision in her head. And she measured out, she weighed it out. She was like, all right, he's not going to listen to me. What does this bring me except more stress and annoyance? Mm-hmm. But for me, the fight would have been worth it. So I just did not get it.
Also, at that point, she had the deal with Simon. Like, maybe if she didn't have anything going with her, she might have decided that was a course of action that she could try to take. But she had moved past that point already. She didn't need Anthony anymore.
I know, but it just, it was one of those things where I was, when I was thinking about coming and
you
doing this
want
episode.
people to know. You're like, I want you to know the injustice, and I want every single person who knows about it to punish the person who did the injustice. And
yes.
Daphne's like, I punched him. Simon knows, we're doing something about it. Like, literally nothing else needs to happen.
The whole town needs to tar and feather him. You don't understand. It drove me fucking crazy. I was like, thank God for Simon coming in and saying it, because if it just felt like if it was never brought up, I would have lost my mind. I would have been so pissed off. So thank God for Simon there, because I just did not get it. I mean, you're explaining it to me now and I understand it, but I still don't get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess.
Like, I get it, but still no. No, yell about it. But that's what I mean. Just her personality, that alone, that whole moment screamed Slytherin to me, because a Gryffindor wouldn't be doing that. And I don't think even, I think a Hufflepuff would have been screaming about it too. Honestly, I think they would have been pissed.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I would, since that wasn't needed at the time, I would have like I could have never brought it up, or maybe I would have used it later. Like, when Anthony was being particularly like, I would have been like 10 years down the road married to Simon. I would have been like, hey, this guy tried to rape me that you wanted me to marry once. And then Anthony could have sat in that a little bit. But
yeah, and I can see a Ravenclaw sitting on it too and waiting.
Yeah.
And just flat out not caring about it because they figured it out already. They fixed it.
It's just like this bit of information that was unuseful at the time, and it may or may not be useful in the future.
Interesting. I'll never relate. But she's just a very, very strategic, very diligent person. Like, this is going completely into the other direction. But when she finds out what flicking the bean is, she's like, I gotta test this shit out. She goes home and just does it. She's like, okay, I have a plan. I'm going to find out what he was talking about, because that was hot. And I want to know. She's just like, really, time for a test. Let's see. Like, good for her.
Yeah.
I was very happy for her.
Yeah, she went right for it. She was like... No, she didn't even really give her much instruction either. He was like, touch yourself down there. And she was like, I'll go to town. Like,
yeah, she's like, okay, I've got my steps. I've got this sorted out. I know what I'm doing. Here we go. Yeah. Like, I feel like maybe someone from another house would have grappled with that. Maybe they would have felt like guilty or shameful. And she was like, no, I'm into this. I'm going to find out what's going on.
She wanted to do it, man. She was like, I don't know what this is, and I want to know. So
no one explains shit to her ever. No. And this is a long running thing with women of the time period anyway. And you saw the other girls on the show too. And just, she gets mad at her mother for it later. She's like, you explained nothing to me. So she's the kind of person who's going to go seek it out and figure it out on her own.
Yeah.
So good for her. I was very happy for Daphne. Okay. I mean, it's a silly example, I guess, but it was another moment where I was like, oh yeah, she went right for it. All right, Slytherin, go for it.
Yeah, she definitely like doesn't really hesitate at anything. She's like, this is what I got to do next, and she does it, and then she goes on and does the next thing.
Yeah, and then even with the duel, man, she's the only one with a brain there, with like a working brain cell that's like, no, we're not doing this. She jumps in front of it.
Yeah,
she's like, this isn't happening. And the men are like banging on their chest. And they're like, oh, you fight for your honor. And she's like, stop being stupid. And I feel like this is the Slytherin's role in any kind of a group where they're friends with people in other houses. They're always the ones shouting, can you just stop being stupid? Because I have an actual plan. Like, Simon and I are going to get married. That's it. The end.
Emotions she doesn't turn to him and ask tedious.
Him. Yeah, but the way she said it in the middle of the duel, like at the end of it or whatever, she's just like, we're getting married. That's it. There's no need for this because there will be a marriage. And she doesn't like ask Simon for his approval. She just says it. She's like, this is the plan.
Well, I mean, at that point, it was her choice because he finally said, I'm never going to have children. So ball's in your court now. And she was like, fine.
Yeah.
You can actually, it's really interesting. You can kind of physically see her entire like future plan shifting.
Yeah. Oh, it's sad. It's really it's a sad thing because, it's all that she really wanted. She just wanted a big family and
yeah, but I mean,
happy marriage.
Thinking about it now, she really did. Like, you can see her like shifting into this new role immediately, which is a Slytherin thing. Like, they have to be very adaptable to like, because her like ultimately at that point she wants to marry Simon. Like she's come to that conclusion. So she immediately does what she has to do in order to marry Simon. And like she says later on when they're like at the fair or whatever, and that little girl runs up to her and Simon's like, you're really good with kids. I'm sorry that I'll never be able to give you that. And she's like, oh, well, it's okay. We're lucky. I have so many brothers and sisters because they're going to have tons and tons of kids. So I'm going to be an aunt to like a ton of little children. And like, it'll be like exactly the same. Like she's totally like shifted her, like she's going to do it because she just wants to be married to Simon at that point.
Yeah, there's no wallowing in any of it, any of the law. Like she does. She just completely sets her course to something new. She's like, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm doing. It's very Slytherin. I again, like I could never make the decision she does.
Well, like Simon's one of her people at that point too. So she's like doing, like he's wormed his way in there. So there was like that whole thing where it was like, it's good to be friends first. And they like actually were friends first. Yeah. Before we move into their marriage, I did want to say there was that whole thing because, you know, she went to the garden and then Simon followed her or whatever. And, oh, what was that nasty girl name? Her Cressida? I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, who was like, I saw you. And they were like in the Modiste and she and Daphne was trying to figure out like if like she was marrying Simon by that point, but she was like, how much did this chick see or whatever? And she's like, ooh, it would have been hard to see us unless you were in the garden too. Gotcha. And she was like, I was on the terrace. And like Daphne lost it and was like, listen, bitch, I'm about to be a duchess. So do you want to be the friend of a duchess or do you want to cause trouble here? And the girl was like, all right, bye.
Yeah. Again, the way she handled that, extremely Slytherin. You're right.
I don't know.
See, I can't put her in another house, Lauren. I can't.
Well, I was just thinking it out too, because we didn't talk at all about her relationship with Cormac McLagan, but that was a bit like Simon dumped her and was like, go marry the prince, and she was like, okay, and like totally horned in on like this Cressida girl had the prince, and Daphne was like, all right, and like stepped right in, and then she was like going with the prince, so she just went and did like that is kind of what happens. Like her goal was to marry Simon, and Simon put up a hard roadblock and was like, I'm never doing that. Yeah. And so you should do this. And she was like, okay, and switched. And like, she didn't like it. Like at that point, it was about like duty as well as I need another goal. And my original goal was getting married. So this is just as good as I guess. And I think it was also a little bit spiteful, but
yes, for sure. They're at the boxing match and she's looking at him and she's like, hey, look over here. Look what's happening.
Yeah, roll up your sleeves some more. I'm standing next to a prince.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I loved this show, honestly. It was so good. It gave you everything you want. It really did. It gave you everything you wanted.
It's straight up like candy. Like I watched it twice. I watched it the first day it came out, or like the day it came out on Christmas. So I watched the day after. And then I just watched it last weekend to get ready for this podcast. And like last weekend and the first time I watched it, it was basically all in one day. And you just swallow it all down. Like it takes
so
no effort
satisfying
to just consume. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I loved it. But then, yeah, I mean, then I guess the next point would have to be their marriage, because then at this point, she's like, this is happening. We're getting married. And then the other big Slytherin thing for me was that when she found out what Simon was doing, it, again, was not some big dramatic affair of accusing him. She's just like, I'm going to get what I want from the situation, and then I'll confront you and tell you that you're a charlatan. Like, I'll do it after I get what I want. And yeah, I did a shitty thing here. I tricked you.
Non-consensual thing.
Yeah, and I think, but she admits right away too. Like she does admit. Yeah,
and I will say, actually, I don't like. I saw people discussing it right when it came out. Right, like this wasn't great. But people also were like, it's a like Harlequin show, and it's not. It's way worse in the books what she does. Way closer.
Oh, really?
Way closer to Dubcon in the books than it is in the show. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez, maybe I should read them.
He's much more vocal about stop in the books. than he is on the show.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he's also drunk in the books.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think in that moment she wanted to be as ugly to him as he was to her. She felt so betrayed.
Well, she straight up did it to get a kid out of him.
Yeah.
She did. Quite obviously was like hoping that a kid came out of that.
But he was doing it to her too. Like what he was doing to her was terrible. You don't do that to somebody and take advantage of them and their innocence.
I mean,
not understanding the situation.
I can kind of, like, her mother should have explicitly told her what was, like, it's like this whole view, like, your husband's supposed to teach you. But when he told her about flicking the bean, he didn't know he was teaching her that. He thought that she had done it before. So I really think it was a little bit of him thinking that she understood, like, how children were made. Because that's another thing, too. Like, men and women were so separated. And, like, men I don't think they fully understood, like, these Eloise and Penelope are walking around like this woman's having a baby because she's in love with someone. Like, they really think that's how it happened.
I get that, but I think he did take advantage of the fact that he knew at that point, okay, she actually doesn't know what's going on here. Like, because she confronts him about it and she says, you know that I was basically clueless on this and you just didn't care. Like, you just kept going ahead with it. And he was like, I told you I can never have children. And she's like, you know that you're playing with phrasing and you're playing with wording there. It's different. It's not can't, it's won't. You know? So I don't know. I
think here's the case of me relating with this other house more than my own, but I understand him because he was like, no, because I understand her too. She was furious because essentially to her, he lied. Like, he straight up lied to her. He told her something that she understood to be true, and it wasn't true in the way that she understood it. And that was a lie, and she was mad about it. And that's mainly what she was mad about. Like, who knows what her reaction would have been if he had been like, I have this weird grudge going on with my dead dad, and that's why I'm not going to have kids. Like, yeah, who knows? But she was mad that he lied. But then I guess we'll get more into this when we talk about Simon, but, like, from his point of view, he probably at some point was like, I'm playing her a little bit, but I also really think he felt that he had explained himself as much as he needed to for the situation to continue working.
Yeah, but I think that even that the whole thing where he tells her like what masturbation is, and he realizes after the fact she didn't know, and he gets all crazy. He's like, I won't corrupt you anymore. Like, he knows she's innocent. He knows she doesn't know these things.
Well, yeah.
So he's playing it a little. He is.
Okay, but also like the time, like, on her wedding night, her mom is supposed to explain to her what a husband expects from a wife. And her mom did not do that. So
no, she didn't.
She was like, your husband will teach you. It'll be fine. And so, I mean, like, Simon may or may not be going in with this, like, thought that her mom told her. He had to have gone in with the thought that her mom told her a lot of the mechanics. Like, his member's going to come out and it's going to go in you. And that's how babies, like, something like that.
Yeah.
But, so... Because he, like, when the first time he, like, pulls out and spills all over the bed, she's like, does that hurt? And he's like, no, I promise I'm enjoying it just as much as you are. But, like, I don't know. She never directly asks, like, what is that?
No, and her behavior after is clearly, it's anger at Simon. It's anger at being deceived. It's all of that. But it's also she's pissed at her mother.
Oh, yeah. She's pissed. Because she got made to look like a fucking idiot. Like,
and what does a Slytherin hate more than anything?
She got made to look like a fool. She had to go to the housekeeper of her husband's house to say, listen, how exactly does a baby get inside of you? And this woman had to explain to her that it's in the seed and it has to go into your body, and that's how babies are made, or blah, blah, blah. And then she had to confront her husband about it when she's been sitting there like, ooh, what is this on the bed? Did that hurt? Right. Like, this is it. And he probably, like, I mean, I don't know. Who knows how culpable he is? Like, how far was he able to take? She understands what's going on and is okay with it. I honestly don't know. But honestly, she never did go, why don't you stay inside of me until that happens? Or like, because she didn't know to ask.
Yeah, it's true. I don't want to excuse what she did. I mean, I think it's terrible. But I can see from her, again, this is what we do on the podcast anyway. We try to understand characters' actions and behaviors through their houses. So I understood her from a Slytherin lens doing that. She didn't want to look like a fool. She was angry. She already was made to look like a fool. And I think that shame, like that anger and that shame, it came out with her wanting to be as ugly as the other person, or as she perceived the other people to be towards her.
Well, yeah. And also it was like, how dare you? Because goal was to get married. Goal was to marry Simon. And then goal was to have a huge family like her family is. So she's like, how dare you put this thing in front of me that you said logistically it cannot happen. And like, there's no such thing as adoption back then, or like you'd be lucky if if your brother died and you got his niece and nephew as a ward or whatever. And that's how you had kids or whatever. But like, and that's the thing too. Like, Simon, obviously, because he didn't want this to happen, never pressured her about this, never made a big deal. But literally the reason for women to get married to a duke was to have a son so that there was another duke. And like, this was her next step. Like, it was her next, like, is like you can call it awful. You can call it like, it was the patriarchy, that this is what women live for, and especially that this is like Daphne's sole purpose in life. But she was happy in this. Like, she wanted to do this woman role, and her next step was to have kids. And Simon said it cannot happen, and she was like, literally, logistically, this cannot happen. There's nothing I can do about it. And then it turns out that there is, and she's like, well, what the fuck? Because this is the next thing that I have to do.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched the scene, I, too, probably was like how everyone else felt, like, she fucking didn't. That's bad. But then you're hit with this.
The first question out of my mom's mouth was, so was that rape? And then we had to pause and have a discussion.
Like, I mean, yeah, it is. It's assault for sure.
Yeah.
It's bad.
I mean.
So there's no excusing it, right? But again, I'm looking at her through her lens of what I think her house is. And it made me understand her behavior a little bit more, because I just couldn't believe she did it. I couldn't believe she had the balls to go in there and go, I'm going to seduce you now, get what I want. Like, everyone else is always playing
you,
me.
And I'm just not going to get off. Like,
that was fucked up. But anyway, I don't like to paint Slytherin as the villain house. Okay, it's not something that only a Slytherin would do. It's just the way, what motivated her to do it. Super Slytherin. She did not like feeling stupid. She did not like feeling played.
Yeah.
It resulted in a very bad thing.
Yeah. And I mean, what was it? So they were waiting to see if she actually was pregnant. And what was it, Simon? He said if she wasn't pregnant, he was going to leave. And if she was, I don't remember. What did he say was going to happen if she was? They were going to have like separate households or something.
Yeah, but I think it was more along the lines of we'll make something work. Like, obviously, I'm going to stay if there's a kid.
But I think it was something more like, because this happened a lot back then too. Like, once a baby boy was born, like the parents like didn't live, like they got the mother a separate house, and the kid like really bad men who were like, I just want to like whore around now that I've done the duty of having an heir. Like, I don't need the woman and the child in my household anymore or whatever. And I felt like he was going like he didn't want to see her anymore. And I like, honestly, I was like, at that point, like, she would have cared eventually, because Simon's her person. But I really think at that point she was so like, I don't care. If I get the kid, I don't care. Like, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she did a shitty thing, but she was going to get her end goal, and she didn't get it. And it was really devastating for her.
Yeah.
And she knew it was
she knew that was like her one things. She thought that was her one shot, right? Because she was like, there's no way Simon is gonna he was not gonna have sex with her again. They did it on the stairs, and then he was like, that's why he was like, I'm leaving, because he was like, I can't be tempted by you, never again. I'm not having a child.
Harlot. Oh man, what a dynamic. That was crazy. Oof. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of what Daphne does, though. When she finds something out, she reroutes, and she goes for what she thinks, okay, this is what I need to do now. I'm going to do it. And it's never, even that, in that moment, it's not a big dramatic thing. It's, I have a goal. I have to accomplish it. And then I'll let you know after the fact. Like, hey, I know what you've been doing all along, and it's been shitty. And even, I mean, in the other way, when she finds out what was going on with Simon's dad, she gets this clarity, and she's just very done. She's like, okay, now I understand what's going on, And from there, she's standing there in the rain and she's like, this is stupid. I understand you. You shouldn't let your father's abuse stop you from being happy. Figure it out. And she walks away. It's never a huge, even though they're standing in the pouring rain, she's not standing there screaming. She's just matter-of-factly saying that I've laid my cards out on the table. It is what it is now. You hear me? I hear you. That's it.
Well, she's always like that. Like in after he has the fight with Anthony at the club or whatever, and he comes home and he's all like cut up. Mm-hmm. And she like goes in and says goodnight to him or whatever, and then like takes care of his whatever, the blood all over his face, and then they start making out, and I think she like gets off of him and is like, figure yourself out, and like leaves. Yeah. It's like, yeah, she's always like that.
Well, that to me screams Slytherin. I don't know if people are going to agree.
I was just thinking too, Rachel and I were talking right before the podcast. There was a conversation, and I think I remember a little bit more of it. It was a conversation between Daphne and Eloise. And Eloise's character is all like, what do you mean? Like, I want to go to school and learn and do things, and a man would just hold me down. And so she like kind of clashes against Daphne in that way, because Daphne is so into doing these things that Eloise like can't believe anybody finds enjoyable. So she kind of looks at her sister and sees like kind of like an idiot. She's like, you're playing into this whole thing. And Daphne actually, like, they have a conversation, and Daphne kind of confronts her at one point and is like, you have no idea what I do and like how hard this is for me and the work I put in order to make this shit happen. Like, you have no idea. So she's like, so you can just shut up. Like, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And could you put her in another house?
No.
Yeah, I can't either. That's kind of my thing too when I'm
maybe if I stretched a little bit more, I could put her in Ravenclaw, but I couldn't put her in an emotional house.
No, me neither. I don't know what argument. I mean, there are definitely arguments for Ravenclaw, but she was.
No, she cares too much about her family. Like, not that Ravenclaws don't care about their family, but the way that she cares about her family and the way that she gets attached to Simon definitely screams like the my circle of people thing to me.
Yeah. I can't. And the way that she
adapts so easily, like
yes,
no, she's a Slytherin.
That's my ruling. You can always disagree. Now Simon, much easier for me to sort.
Yeah, I mean, I had trouble with like Rachel told me her sorting, because the first time I watched this, I didn't sort them. I just like watched it like no thoughts, had empty sex. And then Rachel watched it and told me her sorting. So the second time I watched it, I had her sorting in mind. But it actually took me like halfway through to settle on it and agree with her, because I would like the first 4 episodes, I was like, I don't know. But Daphne was harder for me than Simon for an extremely obvious reason to my character. So
yeah, listen. Simon knows he's hot shit. He knows he's a hot commodity, and he's there.
He does. He shows up and he's like, I don't want to go to a ball. Everybody's going to be all over me. Like, get away from me.
Yeah, he is. He's got that. He's got that charisma. He knows right from the jump. But he's like, I'm here to sort my father's affairs. That's it. And he's very single-mindedly focused on this one thing of just doing his business, getting in, getting out. But he knows everyone's looking at him like, oh, that's the hot Duke. And he's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, with all the money and the title.
Just right from the jump, he was yelling Gryffindor at me. Okay. He was yelling it at me. I mean, the big moment for me was when Daphne punches Pembroke, his reaction to it. I'm sorry, Burbrook. And he's just like, nice one. Like, he loved that shit. And I was like, all right, who else is going to live so vicariously through a punch and just be like, hell yeah, in that moment.
It's like, punch him again.
Yeah, do it. Kick him while he's down. But I agree. The first few episodes, it's not super clear for either of them, right? They're doing their duties. You're not really getting to the meat of the characters. But once the plan gets hatched and he's just like really happy to go along with it, he's like, yeah, get these ladies off of me, please. That's when I feel like their characters started to really open up and develop. And I was like, that's a Gryffindor. That's a Gryffindor. What is it with Gryffindors and dickhead fathers that really screw them up?
What is it with the daddy issues? That's a study, isn't it? Like, do the daddy issues kind of create Gryffindors?
I don't know. Listen, it's horrible watching this poor kid get told, like, you're just garbage, child. No one wants you. I don't want you here. You're a piece of trash. Like, It's so bad. It's so bad. Those scenes were so hard to watch. And you're just watching a Gryffindor in the making.
I mean, he's not quiet about it either. He's like, people go around like, our condolences about your dad, and he's like, no, I don't need him. Like, or when all the mothers go after him, he's like not quiet about the fact that he's like, I have no interest in you. Like, leave me alone.
Absolutely. But one of the biggest arguments I have for Gryffindor, Simon, is the whole vendetta against his father. Yeah. And that's it. He's gonna get back at him by vowing, as this dude is dying.
I said this to you in relation to another character, but I was trying to convince you that somebody else was a Gryffindor. And I was like, what other house would take one traumatic moment and build their entire identity and way of being around it? Like, change their name, change their clothing. And nobody is that dramatic.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It's the dramatics of it. He's like, on his father's deathbed,
I will never have a child. The Hastings line dies with me.
He waited his whole life for that gut punch, and he's so focused on it.
And he's like, choke.
Yeah, he's like, yes, die knowing. And he's so into it. He's so happy, his dramatic ass, that he's just willing to deny himself happiness ever. And then to
actually, punish yourself with that. Like, your dad's dead. He's not going to know. And there's this woman he actually loves, who he would actually probably love raising a child with. But because he's built his entire identity around, I'm never doing this, it's never happening, he literally makes himself miserable with it. Yep. He's like, having a child would be wrong, so I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I can't give my father what he wanted. I need to continue this fight.
Only one creating this problem for himself.
He is. Well, what other house does that? I'm sorry. It's extremely Gryffindor. Like, I have this one huge traumatic event, and now I'm this person, and I will never give myself happiness. Never. That's it. That was the big turning point for me, because when I realized that was what was driving him, I was like, oh, no, honey. No other house. No other house for you. He's just like, his whole attitude is very Gryffindor. I mean, he says something. What does he say to Daphne? She's like, oh, if you were courting me, you would send me flowers. You would do this. You would do that. And he's like, all I need is 5 minutes alone with you in a drawing room if I want to seduce you.
Oh, yeah.
Such a cocky bastard.
And then the show actually never said, but the show does say that Anthony's like, he brought you flowers? And she's like, yeah, for me and mom. And the show didn't say whether, because Daphne told him to bring her flowers, but she didn't say her mom specifically. In the books, he brings them to her mom on his own. So if he did that on the show too, that's just also very, it's Gryffindor to do anyway, but it's also very Gryffindor to be like, I'm going to do this all the way.
No, I totally agree. He doesn't half-ass anything. He beats the shit out of Burbrook. He beats his ass. It was great. And again, Simon doesn't think ahead at all, which is very Gryffindor. He does not think about the consequences down the line. He's like, this guy's in my face and he's poking at the wrong thing and I'm gonna fucking burn it all down. Like, he just doesn't care. He's fully emotionally driven, fully.
No, and that's so, Burbrook shows up at the park with his face all smashed in to blackmail Daphne and to marry him or whatever. And you can see Simon being like, oh shit. I'm the one that prompted this. And you can see him trying, he was going to fight again. He was yelling at him right there in the tent. And Violet was like, we're in public, not here.
Yeah. Yeah, you can, that's a Gryffindor thing. It hits you later. Yeah. After the outburst.
Yeah.
But he's so cocky and so emotionally driven. Going back to just explaining sex to Daphne, not even sex, it's masturbation, but explaining it to her. He knows he really shouldn't be talking to her about it, but they've got this repertoire now where they're like, we're breaking all the rules, whatever. And
that's what she says to him. She says, we're friends, aren't we? That's why you can tell me. Yeah.
But it's so Gryffindor the way he goes about it. He's smiling at her and he's like, it's a continuation of what happens at night. And it's kind of jokey.
At night?
Yeah, it's jokey at first. And then the next day he's steamrolled by the guilt of it. He's like, I shan't corrupt you any further. In fact, I'm leaving town forever. And he's mean about it. And he can't cope with his own decision later. After she first of all, he makes this whole decision. and she just goes and does her Slytherin seduction of Friedrich. Because she's a strategic mastermind.
Where it's like single-minded, this is what I gotta do.
Yeah, but he's got an issue with it. He's like, I'm leaving, figure it out, go to your prince. I cannot corrupt you. I cannot be this person. I can't be happy. You be happy. Be free. Now remember, entirely his plan. Go marry a prince. I'm evil and bad. Okay, I have to keep my revenge against my father alive. So go be happy. But then I'll run into you in the garden. And it's like, but will you really be happy, Daphne? Like, will you really be happy with him? Well, like, it was your idea.
They had that moment in the gallery, too, where I think this was also very, like, Gryffindor. Like, Daphne's just, like, describing a painting to him and, like, brushing his hand. And he's, like, literally standing there in emotional inner turmoil. He's like, I can't do this, but I want it. And it's, like, always that inner paradoxical struggle where, like, I deserve something, but it's bad. And, like, blah, blah, blah. And, like, in the garden is where he does it. And then immediately, it's not that he does it, it's that he gets caught. And immediately he's like, yep, I'm going to duel your brother because that's what we do, because it's honorable. And also, clearly, I'm going to die because I cannot marry you because I'm not having children.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even think about telling her, like, she forces out of him that the reason that I'm not marrying you is because of this children thing. Like, he was going to die just being like, I can't marry you. Like, he didn't even think, like, it was never on his mind to, like, get out of it in this way or whatever. He was like, I'm going to die and I deserve it because I did this. So
I can't take him. It's so nonsensical. All of his actions. Like, he is the only thing in his own way. But just the big thing for me is that he makes these choices and he does these things and doesn't think about the consequences and then gets mad at them later. Like, oh, go marry your prince. Psst, what do you mean you're going to marry a prince? Like, you'd really be happy with him. Like, you could be happy with me, but not me, the monster, the terrible. I'll never give you children. Like, Simon, fuck off. You're being annoying. Like,
he does this constantly too. Like, what when does he get drunk and he's like at the inn? It's when they're married. Yeah. Like when he has to go do the duel and he goes to his friend's house and is like searching for liquor there and is like, I did something stupid. Like, this is what, like, and I did it myself. So this is what's going to happen. And then it's like a continuous cycle. Like, he does it again once they're married. He ends up at that inn in what I like to call the Castiel outfit. You know which one I'm talking about,
yes,
right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you do. So he's like outside. He gets thrown out of the inn because he, like, something happened with Daphne. They had a fight or something. He went in and got drunk and then was like all upset over what he had done.
It's always his fault. She honestly doesn't do, except for the sex thing, she doesn't do anything wrong in the whole show.
No, like, she's just like bumbling around, like, just live it. Like, she just wants to, like, like I said before, literally her goal is to be like the best woman of the time she can be. She wants to, she's like the best wife. She wants to do exactly what she's supposed to do. And Simon is like losing his mind over it. Like, he can't deal with it.
But it's even like it's so ridiculous. Even when they're talking to the queen and they're trying to convince her, he's so honest when he's talking to her. It's so Gryffindor. He can't keep his emotion inside him. He's like, I can't even lie about this. We became best friends and fell in love.
That's actually another Slytherin Daphne moment, too, because she's looking at him like, you fucking idiot. Like, you're going to ruin this. Like, we had a plan. We knew exactly what to say to her to get us to give us the marriage certificate and read the banns or whatever. And you're fucking ruining it. And he's just like out there with all his emotions. Like, I don't even care what happens because of this. Like, it might screw everything up. And I just need to say it.
I have to say that I want her to be my wife because she became my best friend first. And it's like really earnest, but it's also in Gryffindor fashion, not going to keep happening. This is something that happens to Gryffindors. They get caught up in a wave of emotion where the mask kind of slips and they're really endearing before they fuck it all up again later because they're like, haha, I still need revenge. Back to douchebagville. Like, this is his whole thing. He's so nice. He's so sweet. He's reeling her in. And then he's like, never mind, I can't corrupt you. Never mind, I can't give you children. Like, he's so fucking frustrating. It's so,
And, like, kudos to him. That moment of time where he thinks he's getting exactly what he wants is, like, the happiest fucking moment of his entire life. When he either thinks or has tricked himself into thinking that she understands that he is purposely not having children. Yes. And they're still having hot ass sex all around his house. He's like, he's like
overjoyed.
The happiest he's ever been. They're running around. He's like, why don't you sit next to me at dinner? And then he's like, fuck dinner, and like runs her outside to go have sex on the veranda. Uh-huh.
What a drama queen. Oh my God.
He's like, this is the happiest I've ever been in my life. Like, I have a wife who I think in my brain understands what's going on here. So
yeah, let's go bang it out outside. Like, he's just, it's always so dramatic. Even down to, like, we were talking about before, the vows that he makes, another vow. This man is just like, we shall duel at dawn. I vow to never have children. I vow, like, with the vows. He's so, oh God, he's so annoying this way. I love him, but he's like, if you're pregnant, I'll stay with you and make it work, even if I'll sleep in a separate house, whatever, if there's a baby. But if there isn't, I'm leaving. And he fully plans to stick to this like a dick.
No, I was going to mention that. That it's like the most dramatic thing you could do. Like, I can't keep myself away from you, so I'm out of here. Like, I'll pull myself away from you forever and I'll be miserable, but at least we'll be fine. like
what? Gryffindor. Oh my God. Freaking Simon. And then I guess it's all revealed too in the end after Daphne's like big exasperated God, can we just stop speech? We find out Simon is really just, he's so insecure about being a good husband, and that's why he's being shitty still. It's legitimately just like, I don't know how to be the guy you deserve. Like, Daphne wasn't spelling it out for you the entire time, you idiot.
I mean, I was just thinking, this goes way backwards, but when they were first doing their ruse or whatever, the only person who didn't believe it was Anthony. And I'm just remembering what Anthony was like saying when he was like trying to convince Daphne and Violet or whatever. He was like, because a lot of men did this too, like they waited and then they got married late because men can have babies whenever they want, or like they spent a lot of time like whoring around or whatever. And Anthony was like, he was like, I'm serious. This isn't something he's just saying. He's not going to meet the right woman. Simon is not getting married. Like, he's not. And he's so certain of how stubborn this man is from just being at school with him. He's like, Simon's not doing it. He's not putting on airs. It's not a typical man thing. Simon Basset is never getting married. Like, that's it.
He's anything but typical, okay? Like anything. I'm sorry. There's just there's no way that I can put him in any other house just solely based on the way he told his father. Just like waited for this man to gasp his last gulp of air ever. The line dies with me, motherfucker. Like, that's it. That's it. And you could just see how, I'm sure he's not happy, but he's so pleased that he got to have this moment, that he's willing to ride that for the rest of his life. He's like, never going to give it to you.
He was still in his riding coat. Like, he went up to that room and was like, I got to do it. I got to do it now. The timing's right.
He's so dramatic. Please. I loved him. They're such a good pair. Like, but I'm a stickler for a Slytherin Gryffindor relationship. So I clocked it.
I think, have we discussed this I know we've discussed it, that, and maybe it's biased between us too, but I think romantically Gryffindor and Slytherin is one of the best pairings.
It's a good pairing. Mm-hmm. It is, because all that crazy idiocy that you see spewing out of the Gryffindor is like met with so much logic and understanding that sometimes is not deserved from Slytherins. Because I think Slytherins get so exasperated with them. They're just like, why? Like, why are you doing this? There's a clear plan here. Here you go. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And they're like, no, I will duel your brother at dawn. Like,
yeah. Oh, no. And like, at least from my point of view, because I've mentioned before that I'm a huge Gryffindor person, like crushes on every single Gryffindor that I run into. But it's a huge thing to have a person, and then like from a Gryffindor, like Rachel, like Gryffindors are like sluts. They're like love sluts. Like,
hell yeah.
When they love you, like it's not like a they're your person thing like Slytherin, but when they love you, like you're the focus of their devotion and emotional like energy and all that. And it's like a drug, especially from someone that doesn't, and like as a Slytherin, like you don't have to give much in return. Nope. And it's so nice and relaxing to just have this person constantly bask you with like love and affection. And like you love them too in your own way, and they totally understand that.
Yeah. From a Gryffindor perspective, it's nice to have someone kind of calm your brain down, because it's very, very easy to get wrapped up in this emotional outburst and this just like anger, and that other people don't understand it. Because I'm going to bring up Supernatural again. It's the same thing with Dean Winchester.
We haven't done it yet, so
we got to have one per episode, okay? But it's the same thing with Dean as it is kind of with Simon, that I saw people as they were watching it. I would watch Supernatural episodes live, watch people watch Bridgerton on Twitter, and they're like, why? Why are you acting this way? Like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, no, I get it. I get it. I know why they're doing it. I would do it. I would totally be like this. If I was raised the way Simon was, and I had that moment just to like, your line dies here, bitch. Like, yes. And I was going to ride that line forever.
Led up to that moment. He was done after that. He was like,
oh, it's so good.
I'm just going to ride off into the European sunset. Like, I did what my entire childhood was building towards.
Hell yeah.
I'm so mad we haven't talked about Killian yet. Probably spoilers, but he's exactly like Simon.
That's a Gryffindor relationship. Oh my God. Those poor idiots. Oh, that's bad. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll get into it later. But
I mean, I don't know if you saw it. So they're definitely doing season 2.
Yes.
And if all goes well, there should be 8 books, because there are 8 Bridgerton kids and there are 8 series, 8 seasons, whatever. 8 Bridgerton kids, 8 stories. And they just, so the next one's about Anthony, and then it'll be Benedict, and then Colin, and then, who comes after that? I think it might be
D. It's got to be a D.
Well, no. I think because of the way the timeline goes, it might be Francesca first, but I don't remember.
Oh, sorry. Daphne was the D.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. See, I don't remember if it's Eloise or Francesca. So Anthony's next, and they just announced the woman who's playing his love interest. Her name's Kate Sheffield. She's
so pretty.
East Asian. She's so pretty, and they changed her last name to Sharma. So,
nice.
Yeah. So they're doing really well with the representation, and I love Kate, so I'm really excited to see it. And then of course we'll sort Anthony and Kate. And Kate, I don't want to give away the story. Kate has a sister, so we might sort her sister too, who's a pretty big part of the story.
Well, actually, no, I want to ask you, and this could be a spoiler if you haven't finished Bridgerton, which what are you doing if you haven't? But is Lady Whistledown the same character in the show that she is in the books?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And it becomes a thing.
Okay, I'm sure it does. It does. I thought about as I was watching it. So you knew who it was going in.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I was watching it, I was very. I never agreed with Eloise that it was like the seamstress or whatever. Okay. But I did think it was until Eloise started trying to figure it out. I thought maybe it was her just because she's this very talented writer. But then she all of a sudden was really trying to figure it out. And just something to me in my head, I was like, it'd be really good storytelling if she was just best friends with her. And she just never knew. That'd be so good. But I just couldn't figure out how she was doing it because it's such a different personality than she shows people. Uh-huh. So that was a really interesting twist. I liked it.
Yeah. And also Rachel and I are huge fans of Gossip Girl. And this is like extremely somewhat similar to Gossip Girl, just in the format that they've done the show. Like Julie Andrews is the Kristen Bell character or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you like Bridgerton, watch Gossip Girl. If you like Gossip Girl, watch Bridgerton.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Really. So, I mean, it's so satisfying. How can you not just your brain gets massaged? I mean, I don't know how many of you guys read fanfic or whatever, but it's trope after trope after trope. It's so good. Like enemies to friends to lovers to fake relationships and fake dating and courting. It's a period piece. Please. This is everything you want in a show. And it's a Gryffindor and Slytherin relationship, which is my fave. So I can't endorse it enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely watch Bridgerton. I've seen a ton of people do it in the day. Like I said, it's like candy. It really does
sincerely
not take energy or mind brain power. Like you'll be fine.
Yeah. I was up till 5 a.m. binging this shit. I couldn't stop.
So actually, next week, we're moving on to another period piece. We're going to be talking about Outlander. Here's what's interesting about that. Rachel and I have not watched Outlander. Like Rachel, I think, has seen a couple episodes. I have seen a couple of scenes / probably a full episode or two by virtue of my mother, who is a huge Outlander person. Like, she's in the fandom.
So cute.
Yeah. She's going through Droughtlander right now or whatever. So this is the first time that we're doing a show that we're not really familiar with, and which we are not making the effort to be familiar with. We're not going to watch all 5 seasons of Outlander in order to talk about it. So what's going to happen, and we're going to do more episodes like this. We're pretty excited about it. We're calling it shit sorting, and we're going to have a friend come on who knows about the show and who recommends an episode or 2 for Rachel and I to watch, and we're going to sort based on those episodes, and then our friend will tell us how right or awfully wrong we are, since we won't obviously have seen the rest of the show. Like, we'll only have seen these 2 episodes, but it's less about being right like we are every other time, and more, it's called shit sorting. Like, we're just throwing stuff at the wall, like seeing what happens. But our friend next week is named Haley, and we're very, very excited. She'll be the first one to do an episode in this format.
So this is going to be a really, really interesting episode with Haley. Yeah. I'm very excited.
It'll be nice. And we're going to lean on Haley, basically. Like, if it's a bad episode, it's on Haley. So
yeah, do our work for us, Haley. Let's go. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah.
Watch Bridgerton again and then again, and read the books. I'm gonna. Well, dear listeners, that's all we have for you this week. This host wants to thank you for your allegiance to this podcast. Thank you. 'Twas truly a momentous occasion.
Rachel's brain straining to find highbrow English words to say.
Henceforth, notwithstanding, in a fortnight we shall return. Yo, it is like a fortnight, though, isn't it?
Good job.
Hell yeah, that's 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks, a fortnight.
Catch you in a fortnight, bro.
Yeah. Education. All right.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye. See you next week.
See you.
See you in a fortnight.
See you next week.
See you in a fortnight.
See you in a fortnight.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sort of Brilliant. If our sorting choices inspired any rage or excitement, we'd love to hear from you. We're open to feedback, suggestions for characters to sort, and solid counter-arguments with citations.
Never forget your citations. You can find us hanging out on Twitter and Instagram at SOB_pod, or shoot us an email at sortofbrilliant@gmail.com.
And since we're not above begging, please rate and subscribe to Sort of Brilliant on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please share our posts on social media, and if you're a Gryffindor, maybe you'll inspire sorting fights among your own friend group.
The theme music is Hot Shot by Scott Holmes. Can't wait to sort with you again next time. Bye!